Imagine the darkness of an ancient theater. Since the dawn of humanity, human beings have felt a morbid and profound fascination with masks. In Greek tragedies or shamanic rituals, hiding the face was not merely an act of deception, but an invocation. Whoever put on the mask ceased to be an ordinary individual and became a conduit, a god, a monster, or a pure idea. Today, thousands of years later, we have replaced wood carvings and clay paints with polygon meshes, diode lights, and motion sensors. The theater is no longer a stone amphitheater, but the cold glow of a screen at 3 a.m. And the modern mask has immense eyes, hair of impossible colors, and an eternally young voice. Welcome to the digital abyss of fragmented identity. Today, we are going to dissect one of the most disturbing and psychologically complex phenomena of our era. We are talking about the extreme evolution of live entertainment, an ecosystem where human flesh is considered a defect and corporate anonymity is the ultimate virtue. We are talking about the era of virtual content creators, those animated avatars that have hijacked the attention, the money, and the hearts of millions of lonely people around the world. But we are not going to stay on the colorful and friendly surface that the algorithms want you to see. We are going to dive into the darkness of this concept, into the psychological terror of existing solely as intellectual property, and into how this industry is rewriting the way human beings experience love, obsession, and loneliness in the 21st century. To the casual observer, this phenomenon might seem like a simple, quirky evolution of Japanese animation or a niche for video game enthusiasts. A real person whom the industry calls the talent or the soul puts on a motion capture suit or simply uses a webcam with facial recognition software. Every blink, every smile, every tilt of the head is translated in real time to a 2- or 3-dimensional digital model. The result is a living entity on the screen. An animated character that responds live to comments, that plays, that cries, that breathes. But this is where the psychological fracture begins. The human soul behind the screen is strictly bound by draconian legal contracts never to reveal their face, their real name, their age, or their location. They must become ghosts within their own lives. Their biological existence is reduced to a dirty secret that must be hidden at all costs. The real person becomes irrelevant, disposable, a mere biological engine powering a digital god that belongs to a megacorporation. It is an alienation pushed to an extreme that even the most dystopian science fiction writers of the 80s failed to anticipate with such precision and cruelty. Let us delve into the corporate machinery that sustains this shadow theater. There are immense transnational agencies that operate like virtual idol factories. These corporations design a character, an aesthetic look, or skin, and then hold global auditions to find a human to inhabit that shell. Imagine the psychological weight of this process. A young artist seeking connection or success signs a contract accepting that their voice, their traumas, their personal anecdotes, and their sense of humor be packaged under a fake name and a fantasy appearance controlled by executives. From that moment on, their laughter no longer belongs to them. Their tears on stream are the intellectual property of the company. If the talent decides to leave the company, or if they are fired, the corporation does not delete the character. They simply announce their graduation, an aseptic and disturbing corporate term that disguises what is actually a digital death. The avatar is archived or, in some macabre industry cases, assigned to a new physical person, creating a soul transplant. The audience, which has invested hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars donating to this character, faces a surreal grief. They mourn the loss of someone who never physically existed, while the real person who gave them comfort remains alive in some corner of the world, but muzzled by non-disclosure agreements, unable to raise their voice and say, "I am still here." From a psychological and sociological perspective, this level of dissociation borders on pure existential terror. Human behavior experts and psychoanalysts have spent decades studying the concept of the persona, a term coined by psychiatrist Carl Jung to describe the social mask we all wear to interact with the everyday world. We all have a facade for work, another for family, and another for friends. But in this digital ecosystem, the persona has become literal, tangible, monetizable, and most terrifying of all, the property of shareholders. What happens to the human psyche when your mask is infinitely more loved, more successful, and more beautiful than your true biological self? Imagine being cheered by 50,000 people live, hearing them declare their devoted love for you, thanking you for saving their lives in their worst moments of deep depression, and knowing in the back of your mind that they are not looking at you. They are looking at a cybernetic vampire, at a cartoon with fox ears or glowing angel wings. If you walked down the street of your city the next day, not one of those 50,000 people would recognize you if your eyes met. You are a demigod on the web and an absolute nobody in the flesh. This sustained cognitive dissonance generates constant paranoia. The fear of being discovered, the fear of the public seeing the human imperfection behind the algorithmic filter, becomes a paralyzing and obsessive phobia. The physical body begins to feel like a sweaty prison, a heavy and disgusting burden compared to the immaculate and eternal perfection of the digital avatar that never gets sick. This collective paranoia is so deep that the viewer community itself has developed strict taboos to keep the fragile illusion intact. In this closed underworld, investigating the real identity of the human talent is considered a capital offense, a betrayal of the tribe. It is called searching for the past life. There is a fierce, unspoken rule to never look behind the curtain, a nearly pathological pact of collective denial. The public knows, on a strictly rational level, that there is a human being sweating in a small room lit only by a glowing monitor. But they choose to voluntarily forget. They choose to immerse themselves in the fantasy, or, as media scholars would call it, they practice a suspension of disbelief taken to the levels of religious dogma. It is a clear and bleak symptom of our contemporary age. We are so exhausted by harsh reality, so disappointed by constant imperfection, aesthetic ugliness, and the betrayal of real human interactions, that we prefer to embrace the safe lie. We prefer a parasocial relationship where the rules and boundaries are dictated by a recommendation algorithm and the risk of direct emotional harm is absolutely zero. This visceral rejection of the biological speaks to a modern society that is developing a clinical phobia of the human body, a silent disgust toward that which ages, withers, and dies. In direct contrast, the digital avatar is visually pure, has no skin pores, does not sweat, does not gain weight, does not age, and will always be there. Just a mouse click away, ready to smile from ear to ear and read your username out loud in exchange for an electronic donation of $10. Let us pause for a moment to contemplate the visceral aversion that this hyper-connected culture has developed toward the physical body, toward pulsing flesh, fragile bones, and blood. In the Gothic narratives of past centuries, the monstrous and deformed body was the primary source of horror. In our hyper-digitalized era, the normal, ordinary, and fallible human body has become the truly grotesque. The regular viewer of this type of content experiences a deep and violent dissonance when, due to a technical error on the streaming platform, the creator's webcam accidentally activates for a fraction of a second, revealing an exhausted human face with deep, dark circles and pale skin, instead of the magical elf or the flawless cybernetic demon they expected to consume. This event, feared in the entertainment industry as a catastrophic failure in the fabric of their reality, does not generate compassion or empathy, but pure horror and absolute rejection. It is a violent intrusion of the real and the mundane into the aseptic space of the virtual. It is as if the veil of the temple were torn and the optical illusion shattered against the floor, reminding the audience, in the crudest way possible, of their own unavoidable mortality and the pathetic nature of their digital addiction. The immediate reaction of follower communities to these biological leaks is fascinating from the perspective of mass psychiatry. They enter a desperate containment panic, frantically trying to erase any captured image of the real person, blocking users who spread the truth and creating massive smokescreens on discussion forums. They do not act this way to protect the privacy of the vulnerable human being who was just exposed against their will. They act driven by selfishness to protect the immaculate integrity of their own escapist fantasy. The creator's biological body is treated symbolically as a highly dangerous radioactive material that threatens to destroy the digital sanctuary where the lonely viewer has deposited all their hopes for emotional evasion. This leads us inevitably to the emotional, dark, and pulsing core of this contemporary abyss, the extreme and terminal evolution of parasocial relationships. A parasocial relationship occurs in the mind when a viewer invests intense emotional energy, precious time, and genuine interest in a distant media figure who is completely unaware of that viewer's individual existence. These one-way dynamics have always existed in modern society, from devoted fans of classic black and white movie stars to the frenzied followers of popular singers in the 90s. But the media paradigm has mutated into a monstrous and unrecognizable form. Traditional flesh and blood celebrities maintained an insurmountable physical and institutional distance. They lived isolated in walled mansions, walked exclusive red carpets, and their world of luxury was intentionally unreachable for the average citizen. The virtual content creator, on the strict contrary, uses the calculated aesthetic of deceptive hyperproximity. They stream live from their messy rooms, play the same frustrating video games you play, read your specific message in the real-time chat stream, and speak directly into the center of your ear using high-fidelity microphones that catch every breath. They call you their dear friend. They say goodnight with a comforting whisper. They generate a manufactured false intimacy that acts on the lonely and desperate human brain with the same overwhelming chemical potency as a synthetic designer drug. For a primitive human brain, which evolved over millennia in small nomadic tribes where hearing a kind voice beside you meant vital safety and belonging to the group, this constant audiovisual stimulation is biologically indistinguishable from real and genuine affection. The brainstem does not process that this virtual person is being paid a salary to be kind in front of a camera. It only registers with relief that someone finally is paying exclusive attention to it. It is vital, so as not to lose ourselves in abstract theory, to understand how deep loneliness has become the most exploited and lucrative natural resource of the 21st century. Sociologists and public policy researchers across the globe tirelessly warn about a global and silent epidemic of extreme social isolation. Metropolitan areas are increasingly gigantic, noisy, and cold. Local and neighborhood communities have disintegrated under the weight of individualism, and the chronic stress of the modern economic model leaves us completely without the mental energy to maintain complex human friendships, those that require physical effort, patience, and genuine emotional vulnerability. In the midst of this desolate urban emotional desert, the corporate virtual entertainment industry has drilled an oil well directly into the anguish and emptiness of the human soul. These characters with an animated aesthetic act quite literally as emotional prosthetics for social amputees. When a user arrives at their empty apartment, exhausted after an alienating day, depressed and completely isolated from the social fabric, the computer screen lights up in the gloom, and there they are, punctual and radiant, their virtual companion, always exaggeratedly happy to see them return, always ready to entertain them with trivial anecdotes for 6, 8, or 10 hours straight without a break. In this sterilized environment, there is no social friction. There are no real arguments or uncomfortable demands. If the viewer suddenly gets tired, bored, or feels sleepy, they simply close the browser tab with a flick of a finger, annihilating the digital figure until the next day. It is the ultimate concept of love without consequences, pure friendship without reciprocal responsibilities, and constant companionship without the terrifying psychological burden of having to show your own scars, flaws, and traumas to another human being who might judge you. But this perfect digital anesthesia comes at a devastating long-term cognitive price because it slowly and inexorably atrophies the viewer's social muscles. The more you take refuge in the unconditional, prefabricated, and transactional love of a corporate avatar, the less psychological tolerance you have to endure the rough edges, misunderstandings, and complexities inherent to real human beings. The warm shelter becomes, imperceptibly, a padded cell that you no longer wish to leave. In addition to the phobia of the real body, this massive phenomenon feeds like a parasite on another deeply melancholy and widespread psychological trend today: the distorted nostalgia for an idealized past that never actually happened in those terms. Massively successful avatars are meticulously designed with an aesthetic art direction that evokes directly and without subtlety the television animation of the 80s and 90s, using soothing pastel color palettes, constant references to retro pop culture, and projecting a millimeter-calculated childhood innocence. It is no coincidence at all that the vast majority of these virtual characters speak with an artificially sweet, high-pitched, and comforting vocal tone, often imitating dynamics and roles typical of early childhood, such as the act of reading fantastic stories to their viewers before bed or singing soft lullabies with processed and perfect pitch. They are directly attacking the core of the vulnerable subconscious of an entire generation of young adults who feel in the depths of their being that the relentless modern world has stolen all hope for the future. Exhausted adults facing cyclical economic crises, threats of global pandemics, imminent ecological collapse, and a job insecurity that feels permanent and suffocating. By tuning into these long live broadcasts, the overwhelmed viewer experiences a controlled and therapeutic psychological regression. They are magically transported back to a sense of primordial and absolute safety, to the carpeted floor of their childhood living room, watching harmless cartoons on a carefree Saturday morning, but with the perverse and addictive addition that the cartoon now has the ability to speak to them directly, knows how to read their username on the screen, and pretends to emotionally depend on their financial support. It is a weaponized nostalgia, methodically turned into a tool for massive audience retention. The underlying algorithm doesn't just offer you light and colorful entertainment, it is selling you the lukewarm comfort of a digital womb, a liminal space where chronological time does not advance, where the terrible news of the external and physical world does not exist at all, and where you will always be validated, cheered, and loved unconditionally, as long as your international credit card remains firmly linked to the platform's payment gateway. To understand the truly titanic scale of this ongoing dystopia, we must raise our analytical gaze and carefully observe the deep philosophical architecture of this mass phenomenon. Contemporary philosophers and thinkers who dedicate themselves to analyzing complex digital culture often frequently refer to the unsettling concept of hyperreality, a theoretical idea popularized and expanded by minds like the French thinker Jean Baudrillard. Hyperreality is defined as the postmodern condition in which what is genuinely real and what is mere fabricated fiction blend together without perceptible problems, to the point where a clear or useful distinction for the human mind no longer exists. A state where the simulated copy becomes infinitely more real, more pure, and more attractive than the flawed original. In this ecosystem, the original human talent, the person who breathes and suffers, simply does not matter in the value equation. It is the simulated polygon avatar that generates real tears in the audience, that mobilizes millions in real money, and that awakens a devotion bordering on the real and the sacred. Consequently, we are all gradually inhabiting a constant and disturbing liminal space, an endless and doorless virtual hallway that stretches between harsh physical reality and the perpetual digital dream. The global internet network is no longer a simple utilitarian tool that we turn on and use to search for data. It has been transformed into a tangible place where we inhabit most of our waking hours and where we project our vast collective subconscious without censorship. These dazzling virtual characters are the direct visual manifestation of our fractured and distorted collective memory, a precise amalgam of perfect psychological archetypes designed by cold corporate marketing committees with the sole purpose of activating our most primitive biological instincts of parental protection, romantic attraction, and unconditional empathy. They are the new digital sirens singing hypnotic melodies in the vast sea of white noise that is the World Wide Web, relentlessly guiding the fragile ships of human attention toward the sharp reefs of extreme monetization. And they execute this task with an algorithmic efficiency so ruthless, so perfected through thousands of data tests, that the final result borders on authentic cosmic terror. These corporate entities do not need to threaten us with physical violence to dominate us and empty our wallets. They only need to offer us a constant smile and a warm, predictable refuge in the midst of an external world that is increasingly cold and unpredictable. But this dark spiral of alienation and disconnection does not only tragically affect the lonely viewer on the other side of the monitor. The silent and progressive psychological mutation of the content creator themselves is equally fascinating for science and deeply disturbing for ethics. By constantly measuring their own human value and professional success in absolute real time through relentless and flashing metrics, like the exact number of connected viewers, the quantity of new paid subscribers, and the monetary income falling live like a waterfall in the corner of their screen, the cornered individual behind the avatar begins, almost without realizing it, to mold and mutilate their own personality to please the inscrutable whims of the mathematical algorithm. As modern experts in digital behavior and platform psychiatry would say with concern, the real person gradually becomes an absolute slave to analytical data. If the human talent notices, through retention charts, that faking a panic attack or extreme fear in a horror video game generates a massive spike in charitable donations in the chat, their acted fear becomes increasingly exaggerated, more histrionic, more performative in following broadcasts. If the platform's recommendation algorithm rewards childlike tone, verbal submission, or extreme emotional vulnerability, pushed to tears with greater visibility, the creator will aggressively adopt those traits as their own, repetitively and exhaustingly, until the delicate psychological lines separating their true human psyche from the fictional character they portray are completely blurred in a haze of exhaustion. It is, in essence, a mass psychological experiment on a global scale, executed in broad daylight without any kind of institutional ethical oversight or medical safety net. We are talking about young people, often in their 20s, spending 10, 12, or 14 hours a day locked in soundproof rooms, restlessly playing a magical creature or a celestial being in front of a bright screen, reading hundreds of dizzying comments per minute, suddenly internalizing the toxic, possessive, and overwhelming love of faceless strangers, and mercilessly sacrificing their own core identity on the gigantic altar of audience retention and corporate growth metrics. When finally, in the early hours of the morning, they turn off the webcam, close the capture programs, and remove the hot motion sensors from their bodies, the sudden weight of the absolute silence in their rooms must be truly deafening and crushing. The immense existential void that invariably follows massive social overstimulation is a perfect chemical and psychological recipe for acute mental collapse. They become pale ghosts trapped in the purgatory between two incompatible worlds, becoming unable to genuinely connect with the real and three-dimensional people around them, because real people do not shine with neon lights, do not adore them unconditionally and hysterically upon entering a room, and do not transfer hundreds of dollars to their bank accounts simply for existing and smiling. This sickly dynamic, sustained over time, generates an invisible trail of digital ghosts that constantly haunt the corners of the modern internet. When one of these highly popular corporate figures retires due to exhaustion, is fired for breaching contracts, or is suddenly removed from the massive system, They leave behind, like a colossal shipwreck, thousands of hours of archived recordings, endless fan-made video compilations, millions of high-quality illustrations, and entire discussion forums obsessively dedicated to preserving their memory. They become immense digital ruins, funerary monuments made of data floating on the web. And it is precisely in this virtual cemetery where modern urban legend and collective paranoia take absolute control of the narrative. The internet ecosystem is deeply plagued by disturbing tales, very similar to folk horror stories, but adapted to the modern age, about grieving viewers who claim, with total conviction, to still hear the live broadcasts of deleted avatars by tuning into dark and hidden channels of the deep web, or who assert through long conspiracy essays that the experimental artificial intelligence the agency used to manage the digital model in the background has gained a spark of its own consciousness and continues to faithfully reproduce behavior patterns learned from the original talent, macabrely simulating a spectral life after corporate death. These disturbing narratives, although the vast majority are elaborate collective fictions created by bored and grieving communities, undoubtedly reflect an authentic and very deep cultural anxiety. They reveal our atavistic fear of losing sovereign control over our own eternal digital footprint and our total and absolute psychological inability to process human grief toward purely immaterial entities. We end up shedding bitter tears for corporate ghosts in cemeteries built not with stone and earth, but made of intricate source code and flashing server farms hosted in the cloud. The collective memory of humanity is irreversibly fragmented, replacing the real stories and feats of our flesh and blood ancestors with the prefabricated, polished, and plasticized mythology of colorful characters coldly designed in glass boardrooms in the financial centers of Asian or North American megacities. It is a silent and insidious form of colonialism of the subconscious. And all this vast and complex panorama inexorably forces us to turn our heads and look closely toward the imminent future, a relentless future that is already casting its immense and dark shadow over us at this very moment. All this modern culture of devoted worship toward bodiless digital avatars and the normalization of parasocial relationships taken to the absolute extreme is, in fact, paving the psychological path, smoothing the human emotional ground for the imminent massive arrival and total integration of general artificial intelligence into our intimate lives. If millions of people around the world are already completely willing to love deeply, to defend furiously, and to hand over a large part of their monthly income to a two-dimensional animated character on a glass screen, knowing perfectly well deep down that the person behind the voice is acting under strict and limiting corporate guidelines, the evolutionary leap required toward the acceptance of total automation of emotions is terrifyingly minimal. Major entertainment industry agencies and tech corporations are already investing enormous sums of capital, experimenting behind closed doors with autonomous avatars that do not require a human soul to function at all. We are talking about virtual entities generated 100% by advanced deep learning algorithms and neural networks, capable of analyzing in milliseconds the emotional tone of thousands of simultaneous chat messages and responding immediately with the exact intonation, the precise eye movement, and the mathematically perfect phrase to generate maximum psychological attachment and, of course, maximize economic revenue without mercy. Traditional human talent, which is biologically unpredictable, always prone to suffering severe depression, getting involved in public scandals that damage brands, or physically collapsing from extreme fatigue, will be slowly but surely replaced by the untiring perfection of computer code. And when that event horizon occurs and becomes normalized, the fragile human being will not even be necessary as the hidden engine behind the shiny mask. We will have trained ourselves, systematically and voluntarily over the years, to blindly love machines, to feel genuine and painful empathy for relational databases, and to seek the human warmth indispensable for our mental survival in the constant hum of cooled corporate server farms. The gigantic global phenomenon of virtual fragmented identities and faceless creators is not simply a passing curiosity of modern entertainment or an exotic subculture of the web. It is, in fact, the beta phase of massive psychological training for all of humanity to docilely accept the total and final alienation of our species. It is the silent normalization of artificial and inorganic love. It is the grand dress rehearsal for a coming world where real, messy, chaotic, and painful human emotions will be considered by the system as inefficient, problematic, and, ultimately, completely obsolete for the market of loneliness. Observing from the heights this vast, bleak, and fascinating landscape of hyper-connected loneliness that we have built around us, we realize with a shiver that the true cosmic terror does not reside in microchips, screens, or technology itself, but in the truth abyss that this technology reveals like a mirror onto our deep and incurable existential fragility as a species. We have invested decades and billions in building a bright, noisy, and highly addictive digital ecosystem, specifically and with surgical precision designed to avoid at all costs the inevitable pain of being human, to dodge the visceral fear of social rejection, and to commodify sacred empathy until it becomes just another consumer product. The great corporations of the digital age have managed to vacuum pack human warmth, stripping it of its thorns, and they sell it back to us in a safe format through a convenient renewable monthly subscription. In this new world that we have embraced blindfolded, the technological mask no longer serves to hide a vulnerable face that needs protection. The real tragedy is that the mask, with its unalterable smile and empty eyes, has slowly eaten the face that wore it until no biological trace of it remains. And if we are painfully honest with ourselves, all of us, to a greater or lesser extent, are actively participating in this same massive fragmentation of human identity. Our meticulously curated profiles on global social networks, our photographs altered with filters that erase the texture of our skin, our political and social opinions coldly calculated by fear to obtain maximum approval from the anonymous crowd. These are actually our own miniature avatars, our own corporate skins that we wear every morning when we wake up and look at the phone. The beloved and multi-millionaire virtual content creator we analyze today is simply and clearly the logical, extreme, and inevitable conclusion of the global society of the image and constant spectacle. They are the polished and absolutely perfect reflection of a terrified contemporary world that prefers, without hesitating for a single second, the comfort of a beautiful and controlled mirage over facing the rough, unpredictable, and heartbreaking reality of real life. While all of us, millions of lonely souls in crowded cities, slowly close our eyes each night in front of the hypnotic blue glow of our monitors, desperately hoping to find a minimum glimpse of authentic spiritual connection in a computer-synthesized voice or in the fixed gaze of enormous Japanese animation-style eyes that physically cannot see or recognize us, we continue to float adrift and aimlessly in an infinite, dark, and icy ocean of incomprehensible data, digitally surrounded by millions of invisible presences, yet more deeply alone, isolated, and disconnected than at any other moment in the history of our species. It has been a dark, dense, and necessary journey through the deep psychological cracks of our modern digital culture and the most fragile corners of the human psyche in the face of technological advancement. And I deeply appreciate your time, your unwavering patience, and your open mind for accompanying me in this extensive analytical dissection until the end of our broadcast.